everybody. Welcome to the last day before Packers-Vikings home opener here at Lambeau Field. I am Olivia Reiner, and I am joined by Ryan Wood yet again, here to talk to you guys about the Packers and how practice went today and how they're going to be shaping up against the Vikings come Sunday.
Last day of media availability.
This is true.
There is tomorrow.
Yes, but not for us.
No.
So
We
it
will
doesn't.
not be here
If
tomorrow.
we don't get to see it, then it doesn't actually
This is about
matter.
our world, and
Yeah.
no, we're not working tomorrow.
That we provide a window into the life of what we do, and
Yes.
not necessarily, and into the Packers too.
That too.
But anyway, so beautiful day today. Nice, windy. Rain is in the forecast for Sunday.
Is it?
From what I saw.
I've seen it's fluctuated.
Yeah,
It's-
so who knows? I don't know. The Packers were indoors today at practice. They were indoors the day before that, 2 days before
I was
that?
not out at practice that day. I was writing.
Yes,
So you got to tell me.
they were inside.
I don't think they were. I think they were outside
I think,
Thursday.
yes, the day before yesterday. What's today? Friday? Thursday
is
they were
Friday.
outside. Wednesday they were inside.
Okay.
So they went inside, outside, inside. Anyway, if that's something that you care about, Packers
There you go. Now you know.
have not practiced in the rain this week, though.
No, they have not.
No. So it'd be interesting to see what happens.
And
with the
it's
weather
not
on
for lack
Sunday.
of rain this week, by the way.
Oh, there was a lot of rain.
It needs to cut it. It needs to cut out. But anyway,
Yes.
that's neither here nor
Agreed.
there. Sorry.
Agreed.
Soapbox.
So I will pull up our questions over on Facebook. Oh my
Holy
goodness.
cow!
It's a little. All right. You know what, Ryan? You're
It's
gonna have to hold
windy.
my mic.
It's
I need
windy.
to get that.
It is windy here. The weather is trying to start early. Let's put it that way. Speaking of starting early, let's get right to it off the top with the injury report,
Yes.
Olivia.
Yes.
David Bakhtiari, he's playing.
You
I
think
mean,
so?
You got to cushion it. You got to couch it a little bit. His back needs to not lock back up. No regression in the injury. But if that doesn't happen, yeah, he's going to play.
So Ryan is able to parse through the coach speak and even the players
Well,
speak.
even David Bakhtiari said, like, basically, if he's going to be spending a lot of time with the trainers over the next 40 some odd hours, but if he practiced today, his list is questionable. If all continues on this trajectory, he said he has a good chance. So yeah, I mean he's playing.
For those of you who do not know, David Bakhtiari did not practice yesterday with a back injury. He was back today. He was a limited participant, and Matt LaFleur would not comment on whether or not, what the exact details of his injury was. He would not comment on whether or not Bakhtiari was good to go for Sunday. But
He's playing.
I would say he's playing. If you saw on Twitter, if you follow me, he was dancing today during stretch.
He was.
He looked pretty mobile.
I didn't even think about that with the back. Look at you. That's not just fun.
Yeah.
He was a bit limber.
He had full range of motion.
He had more limberness. I don't know if that's a word, but he had more limberness than I would. Let's put it that way.
Yeah, I don't know. He didn't. This may be me reading into this a little too much, but he didn't look like someone with the energy of a guy who was injured and not playing on Sunday.
Yeah. I mean, it's not like he was breakdancing, but he was limber.
All right, John. Hello, everybody. Good to see you in the Facebook chat. John asks, are the Packers going to trade for Dolphins safety Minkah Fitzpatrick? Ryan has been getting this question all day, and I'm sure he really does not want to answer this right now.
I'm not laughing at you, John. She did that on purpose.
I did.
No, they're not. It's about assets. If this was fantasy football, then yes, he would obviously make sense to stick him in the slot with the safeties they have. But they've got Tramon Williams there. Minkah Fitzpatrick's better. Don't get me wrong. But Tramon Williams, even at 36, he's not an issue. He's not an issue in the slot. He's just fine in the slot. And they feel really good, rightfully so. I mean, you saw in the opener, they feel good about their safeties. Darnell Savage Jr., Adrian Amos, they're not fixing to leave the field at all. They both played 100% of the snaps last week. So, no, I mean, in the ideal world, I mean, yeah, they should go out and try to get Bobby Wagner, too, and see if he can spell Warren Burks for a while. You know, obviously you want good players, but no, I don't see that as realistic at all.
Guys, it's a little windy, so sorry if the camera or the tripod moves around a little bit. If anything does happen to this camera and tripod, I will have to dive after it, so you might get to witness something. Oh, God.
Stay tuned for that. The tropical storm's coming off Lake Michigan.
Oh,
here,
man,
so.
this is making me a little nervous. Okay, we're going to keep going. Thank you, Ryan, for answering that question.
You're welcome.
I believe this is the Southwest Florida Packers fan club. I see you in our comments quite a bit, but I believe
Florida's warmer than this.
SWFL, I believe that's what that stands for. Is Billy Turner going to move to left tackle if David Bakhtiari can't go? This was something that Tom Silverstein wrote about yesterday in yesterday's notes, if I'm not mistaken, talking about Turner being ahead of, let's say, Elton Jenkins in the depth chart in terms of who might, or excuse me, not Elton Jenkins, but Alex Light in the depth chart.
Yeah,
he would be sliding over to left tackle. And I would assume that Jenkins would slide over to, oh my God, I am getting very nervous. I would assume that Elton Jenkins would move over to right guard in Billy Turner's place if Turner were to fill in for Bakhtiari.
Yeah, he's basically the third tackle. It's rare because a lot of times these teams, at least Mike McCarthy, he really tried to not move players at two positions. Now he did it at times. I remember Lane Taylor, I think it was against the Vikings a couple years ago, started at left tackle. So it's not like you never see it, but the thought process is usually you don't move a starter to another position to replace another starter, because all of a sudden you go from being without one of your preferred starters to being without two. For example, Billy Turner's at right or left tackle. Well, that's not the guy you want at right or left tackle, preferably. And now you have a replacement at right guard who's not the guy that you prefer to have at right guard. So you're now weaker at two positions. So it still, to me, is a little surprising that Alex Light is not the third tackle. That, to me, that would have been the purpose of him being on this 53-man roster, was to be the third tackle. So surprising, but that's the way they're going.
And what's even more surprising is that last week Alex Light was a scratch from the game, and Tom Silverstein, as I mentioned, wrote about this. He said that Alex Light was a healthy scratch from the game last week. He didn't go into any details of what exactly happened. I don't know, but he did acknowledge that Light was a healthy scratch, which
surprising.
Is exactly, very surprising. Yeah. Dominic points out that Aaron Rodgers had a small play call sheet on his wristband today, said it's certainly something interesting, something new. How exactly does that work, and how might that help Matt LaFleur get the play call in to Rodgers a little bit quicker?
So my understanding of it is that basically you have the name of the play call, the full name on your wrist, and you have a number next to the name. So instead of saying 23X Banana Jet Y on 2 or whatever, you get the idea. Matt LaFleur can say, let's go play 17. And then Aaron Rodgers looks at play 17 and then is able to call relay the play call to the huddle. Why that matters, it might only save a couple seconds. I mean, we're not talking about a major difference here, but time is precious, and we've talked about this. Time is precious pre-snap in this offense. There's a lot of stuff that they're doing. They're busier than the last offense, what Mike McCarthy did pre-snap, the motions, on top of the audibles that Aaron Rodgers has leeway with. So saving any amount of time is helpful, and it saves time because instead of having a very verbose play call and saying it twice, you're saying it once. So it's more efficient. It's cutting out the redundance of saying it twice. With that said, Matt LaFleur did not say he was going to use that in the game Sunday. He said it's an experiment. They're tinkering with it in practice this week. So we'll see if he's wearing the wristband on Sunday. But it's something, especially in the still infancy of this offense, when you're still kind of getting a communication rhythm and flow down. It does make a lot of sense.
So this is something that we discussed yesterday, Ryan, and it's something that a lot of you guys are still very concerned about in the comments here. Aaron asks, do you think the offensive line will protect Rodgers better this week? Aaron Rodgers was obviously hit quite a few times in the game against the Chicago Bears. Where did you see any holes along the offensive line, sort of things that they might need to improve upon coming into week 2 against the Vikings?
Well, you don't want a tight end or a guard blocking Khalil Mack, or this week it'd be Everson Griffin or Danielle Hunter. So some of that stuff did happen. I think a lot of that, though, a lot of it's the Bears front. Now, that doesn't get any much easier because the Vikings front's very good as well. A big part of that, too, is playing on the road at night, where it was loud. I talked with Lane Taylor today, and I asked him, I was like, is that the loudest you've heard Soldier Field? And he said it was, and I was like, I thought so, because it's kind of hard to tell when you're behind glass in a press box. But that was the loudest felt like it was the loudest that I had seen or witnessed Soldier Field being last week in all the times I've gone down there. But that was legit. It was that loud. So when you have a good defensive front on the road in a really hostile environment, you're going to have those issues that you saw. The other thing that, not only are they playing a good front at home this time, but some of that is also on Aaron Rodgers. He's got to get rid of the football. It's not all on the offensive line. Some of it is on Aaron Rodgers and needing to hit his checkdowns occasionally and be more on time. So that's not just Aaron Rodgers. I mean, that's whenever there's protection issues across the league, it's a give and take amongst the offensive line and the quarterback. So that'll be something to keep an eye on. Does he get rid of the ball faster? And obviously, does the protection hold up better?
Mm-hmm. Dean says $10 on an Olivia F-bomb. If the tripod tips, let's not find that out.
I'm kind of braced for it. So
I don't think it's gonna happen.
No, I don't either. But you might think it might be if you can see a thought bubble. You might be able to read it.
You can insert it over my head for sure. Justin asks, when is Oren Burks coming back? What is the timeline exactly of his injury? He has been out with the Packers during practice at stretch. He has not been practicing, as we all know, but he's out there. He's moving around. He doesn't have anything visible that we can see around his shoulder or chest area constricting him while he's practicing. But as I don't remember exactly.
Well, he's not practicing. That's probably why.
While he's stretching. So, what exactly was the timeline for his injury?
I'm going to guess he'll return in October. Don't ask me if it's early or late October, but I'm going to guess October. So I don't think you're going to see him September, but I think you're going to see him before November. If that gives you an idea of the timeline, and the reason why you can't really get any more specific than that is a lot of it just depends on how his shoulder. I guess it's this shoulder. I think it's right shoulder. Is it right or left?
Ugh, gosh, I mean, I don't remember where it was originally.
Whichever shoulder it is.
It's a chest injury.
How long it takes to feel better. I mean, as a linebacker, you can't avoid using your pectoral. Shedding blocks, it's key. It's core to the position. So he's got to be able to do those things that are the requirements of his position before he can play, obviously. And it's just a matter of how he feels.
Mm-hmm. Stanford asks a question. How many snaps will Rashawn Gary play this week against the Vikings? How do you see Gary being used against this offense, against the Vikings? Do you see him being, I guess it just sort of depends how they end up using, sort of aligning the defense this upcoming week, on Sunday. Now, we're getting there.
We're getting there.
Yes. So they've been using the outside linebackers in a lot of different ways, both Preston Smith, Zadarius Smith. Some have lined up as defensive ends. Yep. They've dropped back into coverage. Where do you see Rashawn Gary fitting in?
I think as a marginal part-time player that you saw last week, probably he's clearly going to be behind the Smiths. They're going to be your, I guess, workhorses on the edge, and he'll rotate in as I don't know off the top of my head how many snaps Rashawn Gary got last week, but it's very much a part-time role that he'll have.
All right. This is also a good question. Walter wants to know how many snaps B.J. Goodson will get. I'm curious to see how Goodson is used in this defense. They made it seem like Mike Pettin said this, and Matt LaFleur also spoke about Goodson this week, and they said that he's going to play, which he played special teams in the game against the Bears, which in itself was quite the feat because they acquired him just a day or two before.
He arrived a day before, yeah.
So that was impressive in itself, but now he's been in the defense for a week. It's still certainly going to be a transition for him. How often do you see B.J. Goodson being used at inside linebacker?
More than last week, which doesn't say much because he had 0 snaps defensively last week. But, I mean, he's going to – I would think he's going to play. They acquired him specifically for this type of a matchup. I was kind of, when I spoke with him in the locker room this week, kind of was talking a little bit about, is this a big week for you? He's like, nah, not really. He's playing it cool. But they acquired him to, especially, I mean, when they're in your division, to go against a physical offense like the Vikings with a running back who Dalvin Cook can do everything, but he can also, a part of that is obviously downhill running, inside gaps. They need that early down thumper, and that's what B.J. Goodson is. So, yeah, I think, last week they had basically their base front with a nickel secondary and they just switched the second inside linebacker in that 3-4 to a hybrid safety in Raven Green. I think instead of Raven Green, you probably would see quite a bit more. Not that Raven Green won't play, because especially on third down and stuff, like he can still be on the field. But you're going to probably see B.J. Goodson take a lot of those early down snaps that Raven Green had.
All right, Ryan. Well, as we wrap things up here at Lambeau, what are your thoughts heading into Sunday? Who will have the edge at home here?
You know, I took the Packers. My thought going into the season was that they'd be 1-1 after 2. And so I thought they'd lose to Chicago. I was wrong. If you were watching last week, you were yelling at me. So, yes, I was wrong. But I thought that they'd win this game against Minnesota. I didn't think it'd be easy. I didn't think either game would be easy. I think the Vikings are very good, playoff caliber team. I think the Bears are a playoff caliber team. And I think the Packers are also a playoff caliber team. And the NFC North has a trio that is going to be really competitive all year. So I think it's going to be a little bit better offensively. Maybe not as dominant defensively, even at home, because this Vikings offense is better than the Bears offense. So I've got 23-16, kind of an ugly game probably. Still working out the kinks probably on both sides, although the Vikings did play in the preseason. That's different than the Packers. But the bottom line is it's a huge game for week 2, because, one, if they can start 2-0 and those 2 wins are against your top 2 teams that you're competing for in division, you can't script it any better than that. You literally can't. On the other hand, if you lose and you're 1-1, you're not building off that momentum. You're taking a step back after really having a huge win in the opener. So I wouldn't quite say a swing game because it is week 2, but in terms of momentum early in the season, some momentum is going to be swinging on whatever happens.
All right.
What about you though? What's your?
I am taking the Packers as well.
Okay.
I'm gonna go 21-10. So I think it's gonna be tough, but I think if the defense can show up the way that they did in Chicago, I think they're gonna have a successful week here at home in front of a home crowd, and they really don't have much of a choice but to start off the homestand on a good note, because they've got the Broncos coming in, they've got the Eagles coming in, they've got 2 very strong pass rusher teams coming in here, so I think they're gonna have to. It's a division rival. They're going to want to come out and be successful in this first appearance at home. So I'm going to go with the Packers.
It's funny you say that, too, because David Bakhtiari mentioned that today when we spoke with him about the early gauntlet of pass rushers. And he was like, yeah, it sucks. Like, when you go Khalil Mack, Everson Griffin, Von Miller to start a season. I know Fletcher Cox is pretty good with the Eagles, too. So that's going to be interesting to see what the offensive line looks like playing at home against another good front. That may be one of the more interesting parts of this game. But sounds like we're pretty like-minded. Kind of a lower, maybe kind of uglier game, but the Packers winning.
Yeah, they're going to have to get that offense going, though. 21, I mean, presumably that's 3 touchdowns.
It's low in this league.
It is, but compared to what they did last week, I think 3 touchdowns sounds like a good progression into what maybe they hope.
It is a good defense. They're going against a good defense. I know it's at home, but this Vikings defense, it's got playmakers all over. Hunter, Griffin, the 2 linebackers, Barr and Kendricks, outside guys, Waynes and Rhodes. Harrison Smith might be the best safety in the league. Everywhere you look, this Vikings defense is what this Packers defense wants to be. Playmakers on all levels.
And as you pointed out after the game against Chicago, J.K. Scott is very much part of the Packers defense. And
yes.
Didn't
I have people like, were you disagreeing with me? Or was it?
There were people in the chat that were disagreeing with you. But if you think about it, he is the
Punter's part of the defense, people.
He determines
Punter's part of the defense.
The field position for the opposing team. So
yes.
Their offense. So, hey, I will give that one to you. He was funny today in the locker room. He was asked about his flexibility and whatnot. He says he does a lot of Pilates, not yoga, which apparently.
What are Pilates?
Pilates is not really yoga. There's like a little bit of flexibility involved, but it is a lot about core strength.
Oh, okay. That's why I don't know anything about Pilates. Yes. There we go.
Yeah, so he's big on Pilates. He also mentioned that he has once kneed himself in the face while punting without a helmet on. Yeah, could you imagine?
No, I definitely can't imagine doing that.
Being able to get your leg up high enough to be able to knee yourself in the face and give yourself a bloody nose.
I don't know what would hurt more, my nose or my hamstring.
It sounds terrible.
It'd be awful.
But that apparently he can do that. So.
He's a really flexible dude, though.
He is.
For a punter, like, because you don't know, so J.K. Scott, he's able to punt without hopping. He punts with his plant leg on the ground, which is tough. Like, go outside, get a football, and try to do that. Don't really try to do that because I don't want to send you to the hospital, but you're not going to be able to. You don't actually get a full swing on a punt with your plant leg on the ground, and he's able to do that. That's not easy to do.
Just visualize it. Yeah. I'm thinking about it. Doesn't sound very pleasant.
Yeah, maybe don't try that at home.
But anyway,
forget what I said.
If you'd like to hear J.K. Scott, head over to Packers News. The comment is pretty funny, I will say. It amused me.
It also sounds painful. Like kneeing yourself in the nose, that's...
Yeah, it definitely...
I don't want to do that.
Yeah, for sure. Anyway, all the details about practice today will be up on PackersNews.com. Everything that you need to know about David Bakhtiari and his injury will be in Ryan's notebook, so check that out for sure. Guys, make sure you come hang out with us before the game over on Facebook. We'll be taking your questions, Pete Doherty and I. And then after the game, it'll be Ryan Wood again. And, very important detail. So I was telling Ryan this. I'm actually, you're not going to be so happy that I'm saying this right now.
Probably not.
But
Is it about the Mets? Not about the Mets?
No.
Okay.
I was
Sorry
watching Marquez Valdez-Scantling's Twitch stream. He was streaming Fortnite last night. And he said, he revealed
I'm not doing it.
to the people that if he scores a touchdown on Sunday, that he will do the Orange Justice dance, which is a dance from Fortnite. I wish I could even show you, but I can't. I don't even know. I can't do it. I don't know how to do it. But maybe Ryan will do it for us.
You don't know how to do it. How do I know how to do it? The Orange Justice?
I tried to get Ryan.
I always want to say Orange Juice. The Orange Juice
Justice.
dance. The Orange Justice dance. Yeah. No, that's not going to happen.
I tried to get Ryan to agree that if Valdez-Scantling scores a touchdown and he does the dance, that Ryan should do the dance on the live stream. We almost lost the camera.
I'm standing here thinking we've almost gotten through this whole thing without breaking the camera. It's going to be Orange Justice that does it.
It might be. Anyway, pressure Ryan into doing it. I might not be able to do it, but maybe you guys can help me.
I tried to change the subject there and it didn't work.
Oh, I'm not forgetting about this. I will remind you. Okay, guys.
Oh, boy.
That's going to be it for us today before the camera falls over.